turned into whatever I did. And I just thought I'll share my experiences in the way. Okay, so whenever I talk to someone, they say you have one of the most eclectic careers because I started in IT, and then went to microelectronics, and then did a master's in electronics, and then I came back to IT, and then I felt none of this was giving me the thing that I wanted to do. Then I went to do my MBA from Melbourne Business School, and then I was like, just going around. But right after the business school thing and coming back to India, so I came went for studies and I came back like after 10 years. We started here with just one person, but that is when it really started. So that was the thing that I think I was waiting for. I was 30 when I started. Now it's 11 years since then. But there's been some rewarding journey. It took me nearly 2.5 months to make some money out of this venture, which was less than my day wages when I resigned from Telstra and came back. So it took me 2.5 months to just make that one check. And it's not far, Ramco Systems here. That's where I got my first check. I was standing in the line to get that check. So I still remember those days, and that was the best money I ever probably earned. I've done, as I said, it was less than a day's kind of a wage that I used to get when I was a consultant, but that was very good. And ever since then, there was this MBA thing, and this MBA, which was my 4th degree, 3rd master's, was the only degree I thought I would do it for myself. Everything else was, I need a degree, I need to get some score, I need a job. That was like the routine. But the last thing I said, I'm not going to get a job out of this. I don't want a job, I don't want marks. I want to do something so that I could study, come back and start something. But when we say we don't want it, it kind of follows you. So I got the Dean's Award in MBA in Melbourne Business School, and I got a placement in McKinsey, which I said no, and I came back here. So this is a little bit of my history. And ever after that, 10 years has been an interesting journey. So I'll just share something like that. One of the topics I really liked and I enjoyed was value-based, like pricing. And this kind of helped me survive when I started. So my first 3 years of my business was more consulting and training. I was just offering as a service. Only after that we started a product which then eventually got acquired by another company, and that was the goal. To build, to sell, because I stepped into something knowing that it is going to be a nightmare to crack it. Like I was stepping into an enterprise B2B software. And my first ever client who was interested in it was Microsoft. I was doing some consulting for Microsoft in Seattle, and that's when this idea sparked. And we tried to develop a product trying to sell to Microsoft, okay, which is not a joke. And what happened was the IT teams were all like, wow, this is awesome, this is great. But then when we went to the procurement team, they just knocked us out of the door, said like, who are you? What do you have? Like, who are you? Was the question which we were never able to crack. So I know I stepped into a wrong boot because it was just incredibly hard. The question was, what was your revenue bracket in millions last year? I said, I wish, I had millions last year, but it was never the case. So the first 7-8 customers was incredibly hard. Like it was all based on pure relationships. I was a consultant. I worked for them in the previous career and in the consulting career. So it was like almost a push across the line for the first 6-7. But then when we got acquired by a brand which had its own reputation, it just changed. And we were like going from 7 to 500 in like 4 years. And that's because of the brand. But before all this, the underlying factor was the initial years were all driven by some decisions that I fortunately took in the right way, especially around pricing. Like all other things, it's not one problem that you guys are solving. As a startup, one thing I would say is, like unlike working for a company where I do one thing and there are people to do other things, in a startup we have to do everything. I even mop my floors when I started. So that's how much, like we have to do everything. You have to push and get it right. So pricing is one of the things in the equation, but it's a very important part of the equation. So I'm just going to share what I know or what I learned. Okay. So let me just start with this question. You're going to die unless you take this. What will be the response from the patient? And there's only one person offering this.
I'll pay any money you want.
Exactly right. So if I pay you 100% of my life savings, because that's their value for it, right? But then people will come and say, I will sell it for 5,599. And that's what is happening mostly. And then he is happy. What is lost is he was willing to spend everything that he had on it, but there are then pricing decisions which will make it bad. So pricing, or especially value-based pricing, is really the key. And we'll see what it is in a moment. I'm sure everyone knows this, right? Just anyone who doesn't know this curve. This is the basics. 101. So there's the PQ curve. Know it? So there's a supply, then there's a demand. And there's a sweet spot for every business. You price it, you get some quantity. You price it here, you get this quantity. Okay, so your quantity is going to differ with the price. This is fundamentals, 101. Like PQ curve is the fundamental. But then there are variations. And this is what we have to understand. Elasticity. I'm sure most of you would know it, but elasticity is the key. What is elasticity? How sensitive are your people for a variation in price? Let's say you're an Apple fan. You're willing to shell out like 1.5 lakhs to buy the latest 15. Will you buy it if they price it at 4 lakhs? Will you buy it if you price it at 3 lakhs? Will you buy it if you price it at 2 lakhs? So that's the elasticity. Maybe 10 people will buy it at today's price. Maybe only 1 person will buy it at 4 lakhs. 2 will buy it at 3 lakhs. Maybe 5 will buy it at 2 lakhs. So that elasticity is going to vary. But if I try to do the same for an Oppo and increase it by 1 lakh, how many people will buy it? No, like 0. And so the elasticity for Oppo is different, elasticity for Apple is different. So that elasticity is the key. And we all, I'm sure, should know it and understand it. And it's a simple curve to say. Like, price with really high elasticity, where if you just increase the price from this to this, it goes from this to 0. So you have to understand your products, your offerings value. How sensitive are your customers? There are products where it will just go slowly down. There are products which just go from 100 to 0 in no time. So price elasticity is the bottom line, and it's a science. Pricing is not something like, okay, this is my price. It's going to be a science. You have to benchmark it, you have to improve it, you need to get changing, but this is the concept that you need to understand. If not today, when you're working on your pricing, please look for elasticity. That's something I want to show. And after that, I'm not going to make any more theories. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about things. That's the only theory.
Can you tell more on elasticity? What is elasticity?
That's why. So elasticity is the response that you get from your customers. As I said, like if you price your product 100 rupees or $100 more, how many people will drop out of your subscription? So you got a subscription. Let's say you have a, I don't know which app. So you have a Zoho subscription or a Google subscription, YouTube subscription for 150 rupees today. If they make it 1,000 rupees, will you buy it? Some people may buy it, but good number of people will drop. How sensitive are people to price fluctuations? That's what is elasticity. And it differs from segment to segment, product to product, service to service. Is that making sense? So there are some products where elasticity doesn't matter. You price the petrol at 80 rupees, you price it at 100 rupees, 110 rupees, that's your fate, you have to pay for it.
Literally, it's like when it will break kind of thing.
Exactly, so it's the responsiveness. So here, there are just two curves that I want you to look at. This curve, where if I price it at, let's say this is $100. $100, I'm able to sell this many. Let's say this is 100 units. But if I increase from 100 to 110, it goes from there to 0 or 10. So that is like highly sensitive. So you should be very, very cautious with pricing. An incorrect decision will get you out of business. But if you have a more elastic curve, less elastic curve, then you have some buffer to play with it. Okay, so elasticity is a very important concept to understand. Please bear in mind.
How will you get the data?
That's, as I said, it's a science. So every segment will differ. There's a lot of studies. So pricing is a science. It will take some time depending on every segment, every offering. What most people do here is there will be a comparable product and they'll just price accordingly. That's what most people do, but that's one way to do it. There's always unique, innovative pricing strategy which actually make the product really successful as well. But we'll see some examples here. But it could be a more detailed session as well.
Churn rate will be with the time, right? The churn rate is like with time, how many people retirement?
No, so as simple as that. See, I have our product, the one that I'm selling. We have per user is at like $15 a year, a month. So, per user per month is like $15, okay? If I increase this, and we have 500 customers, each having like 500 customers, but each having like say hundreds of subscriptions, hundreds of users. If I increase my price from 15 to 25, next year how many people will renew? That's my question. If they don't renew because it's expensive, then I have a serious elasticity problem. I should only go maybe $1 or $2 more. But if I know that they are sold to my idea, then I can just make it to $25 or $30 a month and still it will sell. So elasticity is something that you either do some study, you could talk to people and understand, or you need to experiment and see. But if your market is very sensitive to pricing, you don't have much buffer to play with it. So elasticity concept, that's just an intro. And then there are multiple pricing options. Okay, the traditional one is cost-based pricing. How did our grandfathers or previous generations, how did they price? How would you think about pricing when you think about pricing in the old days? What will they do?
Margin and
Margin, yeah.
Keep some margin and sell. Correct. That's all. So this is my cost. This is my overheads and some margin. That's cost-based pricing. That should not be the case, and that's obsolete unless, God forbid, you are in a commodity business. What is a commodity business? You're selling the same product like another one. You're offering the same service as like another person. You have no option, but market will determine your price. I mean, there are businesses who do that even today, but they are really, old. I mean, I would say old school businesses. They are still doing it. If you are manufacturing an automobile part, I have friends who manufacture parts for Hyundai. Their parts price is determined by Hyundai or their suppliers. You can't add a cent or a paisa more to it. That's your price. You do it or you don't. If you don't, there's another person to do it. So there's no differentiation. So commodity, we are not talking about it. We are talking about each of you guys are working on something that's a concept, that's not a commodity. So that's where cost price pricing is not even applicable to you. And even worse, if you are talking about, there's another concept, theory again, which you need to be aware of. It's called marginal cost. Okay, when you have to price your product, you need to look at only marginal cost. Okay, let's say I spend $2 million to develop a software. I cannot price my software on the cost that I spend to develop it. My cost is the marginal cost to build another unit. Marginal cost is the cost to build another unit, and that's the only thing that will determine your pricing. Okay, for software, what is marginal cost? Zero. There is a fixed cost. Okay, you need to pay your developers, that's immaterial. But marginal cost to manufacture another package of software is zero. So you cannot go with cost-based pricing at all. So cost-based pricing will not even work in a lot of new world businesses. Am I making sense? Okay. So we'll be just looking at it. And most people think, okay, value-based pricing means I just price it up. Okay, I just price it up. So this is a classical example where people have this misconception. If I just make my product look expensive, it will be perceived as an expensive product and people buy. That's not the case. You buy Apple with a premium price because Apple is Apple. If someone else tries to do an Apple, what will happen? It will be like a joke, right? No one will go ahead with it. So you need to, this is not value-based pricing. Value-based pricing is something different. We'll see in a moment. This is the Harvard's definition of value-based pricing. So it's about the value that we create due to a differentiated product. And this is just a theory. But I have a product that adds something different to what is available in the market, and I price for it. That's the theoretical definition of it. But just look at the actual example here. This is what people think. Sorry, I'll just use this and I'll just ask a question. Okay, so I have you. So we are the people who are trying to price it, and this is customer. Okay. So I charge $80 an hour now, and then 2 years later I charge $120 an hour. Then maybe I build something and then I charge $600 an hour. Is this value-based pricing?
If they add something more to that software and then...
No, I'm just, let's say I'm a service provider, let's say. I'm a consultant, I'm charging $80 an hour today. 6 months later, I charge $120 an hour. And then I go ahead and even charge $600 an hour.
Your services are not palpable, they're not that, they're not.
Let's say customers are there to buy it. Let's assume there are customers to buy it.
And then it is value based.
It's not. No. So it's not valid.
This is the
It depends
classical
on the value
diagram.
that you put to your time.
Yes, but this is the value that I put to myself.
Correct.
That is not value-based pricing. Okay, so customer is making $100,000 profit today, and I go do some service for them, and I increase from $100,000 to $300,000. What's the value here? $200,000, right? In between. And if you price $100,000 or $50,000 or $40,000, you find a sweet spot to get this value for yourself. So 200,000 is the value you are creating. And you should price it in such a way that you get a percentage of it. If you go and ask 200,000, they'll say go goodbye. That's not going to work. And if you just charge 10,000 for it, then you are losing the value. Is that right? So value-based pricing is not on what we charge. It's what your customers make, what your customers get out of it. Okay, let's take a simple example, like an accounting software, right? People, Indians have this tendency not to buy software. We are so used to using everything for free. And I am in the business of selling software, it's a nightmare. So I don't have any Indian customers, by the way. But if you look at Zohos and Fresh Desks of the world, they have good number of Indian customers as well. And it all happened maybe in the last 10 years or so. We never want to buy a software. I'm happy to sit and do an Excel spreadsheet and try to do some analytics from Excel spreadsheet rather than investing on a CRM software or a support desk. Why is it changing? Why is it changing? Because in the 10 years back, the cost of human capital was negligible in India. You don't have to pay a fortune to a guy to sit and do those Excel spreadsheets. The cost per person's time was negligible, so we were just happy to spend all the time in the world in Excel spreadsheets. But if a software could save like 100 man-hours a month, then that 100 man-hours a month is the value that this software is creating to that user. And then I can price for that 100 man-hours a percentage of it to myself. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, why are we buying software today? It's only because our wages have gone up. And I myself, like our company itself is the same. Like they were using Excel. I said, like, please stop doing it. You can't spend 30 days to do simple things. So rather, if the software could do it in 5 days, go buy it. Like that is the value that I'm getting by buying a software. So value-based pricing is all about what you create for a customer and not what you are. Not what we are after. So this one is again, as it says, it's the old school way of saying, I price myself and that's the value. No, it's what your customers want. So this is what I was just saying. So in the old style, we know cost, markup, and we price it here. But if the actual value created is this much, you are missing out on it. You are really missing out on it. And that's what we have to do is, your cost and all this here. Of course, you can't go below your cost. But there are businesses who are doing it. Which company is profitable today? How many big companies are profitable today? Can anyone know? How many big companies, the big names you hear, Zomato, Ola, Flipkart, how many are profitable today? Almost none, right? Only one or two companies are making some profit because their strategy, they say, is 10 years down the line or whatever. So sometimes they go below the cost, but that's different model. In a normal business, where we don't have big, deep pockets to just keep shoveling money into us, we need to price beyond over our cost, but it should be somewhere in between. So what's the total value created, and what is the sweet spot for my business? So that is what is value-based pricing. Am I making sense?
How do we know what's like you mentioned here that your customer is making a profit of $300,000? Now when I go and sell it to my customer, will he reveal that? He won't reveal it.
Yeah. So every industry there are different ways to ascertain what your customer is gaining out of it. It's not one good answer. I wish there was one, but as I said, in a software, like this will be a very compelling problem if yours is the most unique offering in the world. There's no benchmarks. Like if there is no other benchmark, then it's your job is like really hard. You may price it well, or you may just lose value. But in most cases, there will be some benchmark that we can work. So there are 4 steps that we'll talk about how to get that thing successful. But that is the hard question. If my offering is like none like anyone else, then it's a very big problem because we don't know what to price it on. But it's mostly there are references which you can take, and I'll just show you. In my case itself, I had an example like that, and I'll just share that. So this one, like in terms of perceived value, some people again they assume just by doubling the price or increasing the price, I'm creating more value. That's a very wrong misconception. You need to really have your fundamentals strong before marking up the price. Okay, so just in my own example, I am charging at least 3 times what I used to charge like 5 years back. I'm charging that kind of money as a consultant. If I'm going as a consultant, they will be paying me by an hour, and I charge at least 3 times. But that's not because I just increase my price. Because when I go, I know how to actually reduce the time that they are doing certain things. So that's how I price it, not because I have 10 years of experience. Okay, so
In the meantime, I'll ask another question. You said about Zoho and all, and you said because of human cost, to reduce the human cost, Zoho is able to sell in India. But I feel it is because of subscription base, they're able to sell in India. If you sell your software as a perpetual license, which is very huge amount, there may not be as much customer as if you start selling a subscription base.
No, so that's a different school of thought. Perpetual licenses are not there anymore. Even Office has come to a subscription model. But Office is a subscription model. How many of us are buying Office? Like I'm asking an open question, right? See, that is a different. I think that's a different question. We Indians are so used to, using the software, not buying it. But when it comes to small businesses, large businesses, it's out of the equation. They have audits and things like that. In the small businesses, they try to reduce the cost by doing trivial things, but these days things are changing. We are also investing on software to reduce our time. Because it's harder to find people and pay them to do it. So coming to value-based pricing, there's just 4 tenets. Again, these have some proper references. If you want, I can share. This is from the HBR, like Harvard Business Review case study. So these are the 4 steps recommended for a value-based pricing. I'm not going to talk too much here. I'll just give you some examples and leave you think. If you want to follow up or have a discussion, do let me know. So there's the 4 things. I don't know what offering you are, what services you are doing, but you need to know what is your segment. If you try to be everything for everyone, there's no way you can do the pricing right. Is that making sense? You need to know your segment, and every segment is different. So without knowing your segment, if you try to do a pricing, it's absolutely going to backfire. There are a couple of theories, like studies. If you are interested, you could do. It's called the 4 P's and 3 C's frameworks. Okay, 4 P framework and 3 C framework, absolutely essential for any entrepreneur. You don't have to be an MBA to do it. You should please read it. And there is STP, segmenting, targeting, and positioning. These concepts, you don't have to do it like a theoretical thing, but absolutely essential in my opinion to get your pricing right. So you need to know exactly this, like the segment that you're going for. Okay, so let's say I wouldn't mind paying like 50,000 for a watch, but that's because I like watches. How many people will pay 50,000 for a watch? And if you are coming with an offering, especially a running watch, let's say I'm into sports. If you are coming with an offering and that is going to give me something like really unique when I do my activity, you need to price it for me. You cannot price it for someone who is not running, who is not into the sport. And if you price it for him, he will say, maybe I'll pay it for 5,000 rupees. But I wouldn't mind paying 50,000 because I know its value. So you need to know your segment to be able to price it. Is that making sense? That's the first thing. So first thing, value varies by segment. Even if same product, you can have it for multiple segments and price it differently. Have you seen this? This is very common. Like I'll just show you no example. I want to stick to something that we all know. What's the difference between 23 plus and ultra? literally nothing. Like all this camera crap is all crap. Like in my opinion, how many people use that 1200 whatever megapixels camera? It's about the segment. Okay, people who want to have the best in the class, they will automatically self-select into an ultra. Okay, someone who doesn't want the smallest one will go for this. So you see the right, like I wanted to take this screenshot to show you what is the important difference here. Except some camera crap which says 50 MP and 200 MP. I don't know how many people use that kind of precision in camera. I am not a person like that. I use my phone just as a phone. I wish I go back to 1100, which is what I used to like. But all these are just because they know there are different pricing, different segments. Is that making sense? S23 and 23 plus, I don't know how many are Samsung. I'm a Samsung user, been there for 18 years since S1. And I've been always in this model, which is the base model. Every time they introduce a new model, I just go buy it. I don't mind what is the price. Because I like this model, they give an upgrade, I buy it. So they are pricing for me, people like that. So they have to price it for that segment. But all these three models are in almost the same. Like maybe some variations in gimmicks, but the pricing is from 75,000 to double it. And why is that the case? Is it the manufacturing cost? Is it the manufacturing cost that is determining the price?
Yes, some manufacturing cost is involved here.
Yeah, there is a change in screen sizes on the battery.
Yeah, but how much different is it going to
Yeah,
be?
it's not that different to increase it by twice, but there is some additional.
Yeah, but that marginal cost is not the driver for the pricing.
Not even 2%.
Yeah.
That marginal cost, so that's what we need to get out of. So this is not because S23 Ultra is going to cost double as much as manufacturing an S23. Will you agree it's going to cost double for Samsung to manufacture 23 Ultra versus S23? Cannot be the case, right? They know that this segment, who wants that little bit of extra, can pay more. And that's all about it. This is about identifying your segment and pricing it right.
How about selling to a same customer by giving him 3 offerings? This, and then if you want something more data analysis, you take this. And if you want something more than that, take this.
That's the car model, right? Add-ons. Like you buy a car, they price every add-on, right? Like when we buy a medium car, I don't know, like you buy a Hyundai or a, like in the premium cars, when you buy, they just package everything. There's only one. When I bought my XC90, there was only one model. It's like fully loaded with things which I don't need. But if I go buy a Hyundai or a Suzuki, they will say, if I want this, there's an extra price. If I want that, there's an extra price. Is that the manufacturing cost? No. It's just, imagine having a clip to have your cruise in your steering. Is that going to cost me 10,000 or 15,000 to manufacture? The feature is there. The chip is there, they just have to enable it. So it's about add-on kind of a pricing, that's a different model. This is segment-based pricing.
So just a question. Do you think in the starting of the business itself, we should go ahead and segment pricing?
Yes. Yes. And I would say yes, because I'll come to this example in a moment. This is a classic study, again documented in Harvard Business Reviews as well. It's a very good study. But I'll just show you this one. This guy, Zoho Desk, I'm trying to use our own examples here, like the same applies with any software. This is 800, 1400, 2400, and it's the same software, right? With some features enabled or disabled. They're not having different teams to develop it, right? They're not having different teams, different code and things like that. It's the same software, they just enable it and disable it. And why are they doing it? When they can give it for 800, why are they pricing it at 2,400? Or when they can price it at 2,400, why are they keeping 800 as well?
The different segments and different
Exactly.
and different intentions of purchase.
Intentions of purchasing. So you just need to know the segment. So if you have a product, see, I did that to safeguard myself. This was the pricing I first introduced. Okay, I want to share this example because I priced it at I priced it at 43,000 a day. When I started in 2013, I said a day's training. This is what I started as a training and consulting firm. I said I want to charge 43,000 a day. And then I said maybe I should make this attractive by keeping one more offering, which will make this more attractive. You know, that is another model of pricing. So you have an offering which people don't want to buy, but they will keep it there so that it will look 43,000 will look attractive. So I've had this pricing model for at least 8 years when I was doing it. Now this model is not there. All three, I will be doing the training, and I'll be doing the same thing. So there's no difference. Okay, I'll be the one who does the work, all the three. And I had one for 29,000 as well because I was afraid I will lose out on my customers if I price it high. This is, I'm talking about 10 years back when we just started. I kept a price offering for 29,000 because I was a little paranoid. Everyone else in India were suggesting keep it at 10 to 12,000. Okay, so I priced it like this. 8 years I was doing this. I've done it for like 600 plus clients. Guess how many people would have taken 29,000 offering? One company wanted this, and that's from Kerala. Like for some reason they wanted this. No one even touched this. Everyone wanted this or this because that's again perception about like you pay more, you get more, or is also there. But there are some pointers I added here, which clearly sets it apart. So this one is a hands-on. This one doesn't have a hands-on. That's the only make or break for the people who avail my service. I give them a hands-on training, or I just do a theoretical training, which I cannot do. I will always be doing a hands-on training, even if they call me for 29,000 or even 10,000, I will do the same. But my pricing is because they value their consultant's time. They are going to make like 5 people sit in the room and listen to me, right? They are paying them to do it. So their value is what I have translated as my pricing. So to your question, do I need to have segments?
In the starting of the business itself, that was exactly.
Yeah, better because
Basically,
if
we
you
have a
don't know
product.
exactly what your segment's willingness to pay is, give 2 options.
We have product for school, wherein we charge per student per year.
Yeah.
But there are different segmentation of school as well. Some.
Yeah.
So right now we are
You have-
selling at 4,200 per student per year. Shall we go ahead segment it?
Exactly.
Lower and upper and upper?
So very good question. You need to do it. There's a company called Never Skip. It was just acquired. That's my friend's company. Have you heard of Never Skip? They do this messages, like when there's classes and things like that. It does, like it's like it's a school software. They do attendance and homeworks and all those things. And his company was just acquired by another company, and I think they were sold it for 130 crores or something like that. But that was segmented. See, a kid who is paying 1.5 lakhs to a school is also there. Paying 6 lakhs per year is also there, and then 40,000 is also there. The school's willingness to pay is completely different. So if you're going to have one pricing to everyone, you may miss out on something. On the other hand, you may even miss out on value. If a school is charging 5 lakhs, why don't they pay you more to get that kind of a messaging, right? So value to the customer is very important. So you should be ideally having at least 2 select offerings to select from, right? So this one was, it's a classical example. Both are pregnancy test kits. Both are pregnancy test kits from the same company. What they did was, they did one with a very simple packaging. They did one with an attractive packaging. They call this segment as fearfuls, and they call this segment as hopefuls. What does it mean? I mean, I'm sure you know. So there are people who are fearful, and they do the pregnancy testing. And there are hopefuls, the young, newly married who want to have a kid. They place this in contraceptive section. They place this in the baby food section. They price double. Same product is the same. The actual product is the same. They sold this, 80% of the people bought this. 20% bought this. But the pricing was double. Is that making sense? So if you know your segment, when you do smart work, then your opportunity to make more, grows. Is that? I mean, it's a very clear example. I used to love this case study, so I want to share this. Okay, but and they themselves published this in Harvard Business Review, saying that it's the same product inside. There's no difference in it.
So what if the word of mouth is like usually now if you see we have like feedback thing, right? So what if a word of mouth is spread like no it's the same even if there are different segments?
Yeah, see there is going to be comments on that as well, but that has less impact on the decision makers. So people, if you know their interests, if their persona, so we need to have a persona for our buyers. That's what the segmenting exercise is. If you do an STP, you have a persona for the buyers. They will read the feedback, but they'll still go for the one that you have particularly given to them. See, I'm just sharing my own personal buying experience. So if I go look at a product in Amazon, and there is the same product, but someone has a something that says this is slightly higher, but they will be doing a proper delivery and it's a genuine product rather than a counterfeit one. Same product twice as well. Even if there are some comments which say I'm getting the same product in the other one for a cheaper price, I would be inclined to buy it from someone who has a reputation to do a genuine product rather than a counterfeit. Is that making sense? So there'll be some differences. I wouldn't be influenced by some comments or feedback if you do the right wordings or the right messaging. I mean, this is at least the general perception. Of course, there'll be some people who will be going on. That's why the elasticity is a very important factor. How sensitive are your customers to pricing? Right? So if in your case, if you're selling a school software, and if another person tries to come and undercut you, that is where your problem is. So there's going to be always another person who will come and undercut you, and that's why you need a segment. If there's a school who wouldn't mind swapping your software, like this guy had it, my friend had it. There's another software called EduCloud, and they were trying to undercut it. But because they have invested a lot on NeverSkip, they didn't make that move. And he at that time started introducing additional features for them. Okay,
The only apprehension was whether they will be
Sorry?
gone, even in the first, the only apprehension was if the cost is too high, maybe they will go away. But we want traction in the starting.
Absolutely. That's why I said, just because I price a water bottle for $10 doesn't mean I'm doing a value-based pricing.
Right.
We need to have what my customer perceives as the value. And we have a lot of references in your case as well. So anyway, so just to to make it very clear, segmenting and having the pricing for that segment is important. And in Indian context, I'll tell you something, and mostly in Indian context, it's an interesting thing. Everyone wanted this training at this price. Okay, they wanted this time, but to me it doesn't matter. Everything is me. I'm just going to do the same service. So interestingly enough, they never looked at the 29,000 pricing. I want the 59,000 for 43,000. Okay, go ahead. Happy to do it. That's so. If you do the pricing right, and if you give them a comparison that will make this attractive, then you are making money. I'll tell you in the next section what was my learning before coming to this pricing. Because if someone asks me whether my MBA was worth it, I'll say hands down yes, just for this one decision about pricing. Okay, and I'll tell you why.
The only question I have for you is on a SaaS model, it probably makes sense and it's doable. Because when I come into that, and it's called software, right? So the number of hours I spend are pretty much the same on the different varieties of policy. Maybe you spend more, I don't know, I'm sorry. But when you are on a product plus service model, when you want to when you want to say have a flanking strategy like you were mentioning, or you want to segment differently for different, like you cater to pet parents. There are say Bernards, there are Kindies, but pet parents are willing to pay equally whether it's an Indie or it's a Saint Bernard, right? And unfortunately, there is a segment of folk or SECC, for example, who are not willing to pay say 10K for a dog for a medical product. What do you do in that case? Because the software is only one portion of it. The product per se, which comes at a base level cost, I mean, you will have to find a way to keep it the same across all three levels because they will talk to each other. It's a very close community, like a runner community. Each knows what pair of Adidas shoes versus say A6 or a New Balance costs. They want to talk to each other. It's not like they're not going to.
But see, that's yours is an interesting thing because let's talk about, I don't know much about pets, but 2 blocks from my home, there's a place called Top Dog Resort. I mean, if you haven't been
I know Top Dog. Yeah.
So my house is 2 blocks from there and towards the beach.
I know Top Dog.
And I see all the fancy cars in the world going there. If there are cars in my street, it will be my car or their car. There's no other people in my street. I live in a isolated place, so close to Top Dog. And I see all the fanciest cars coming there. They are willing to pay, and I understood the pricing. Or I was like, the person who runs it is my neighbor, obviously, so I know. they have like a base 800 rupees or 1000 rupees to just leave your pet there.
Yeah.
But then spa and then the massage.
Everything
and
is
then
plus.
That's what. So you either do segmenting or you give options. So you asked about options and they have got options.
No, I get the segment and the options thing. In fact, I've thought of how we can do that. My worry is about my cost model, where the product comes in. So the facilities which I have, like as
Yeah.
Dog has.
Yeah.
So the product per se is at a certain cost.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Cost is cost. That is different. Whether you're going to price it here or here or here is what I'm talking about. You cannot. So for
This, I'm not able to equate it back to the market.
maybe we
I'll
should.
get it.
Okay, but the cost is different. Like that's the marginal cost. So if I am doing some additional service for my people, I charge for it as well.
Yeah.
But are you going to charge only for the cost or a whole
A
bundle?
whole host of services. So
Yes,
it's a-
and the value, right?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So manufacturing is different, for example.
Yeah.
But like we spoke, if we have a cruise control button, that's going to cost me additional 500 rupees to do. But I'm selling at 15,000 to my customer. Like, if I go to a Honda City and want a cruise control button, they charge me 20,000 rupees.
The perceived value is more.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Then I shouldn't be charging it for 1,000 rupees.
Yeah, so you don't charge at cost, you charge at perceived value,
Perceived
of what
value.
what customer gets from it.
From it. That is what is value-based pricing. If I was Honda City, if I was doing a cost-based pricing, I should price it at 1,000 rupees. Right? I'm sorry, I'm making up these numbers. It's been a while since I
It's
looked
all
at this
right.
out.
I have so there is an equivalent in terms of ABS certificate when you're in the auto industry. So ABS actually
Yes.
usually costs only X. Or I don't remember now, but 15 years ago it used to cost only 3,500 or 5,000 bucks when we got it off the market. But when we priced it for the customer from the showroom, we used to cost it at 8,500.
Yeah.
But when it went packaged in the car, it went as 15K. Not that the customer knew it, but that was the value the customer was willing to pay for ABS tracing.
Exactly.
That's
So
a
that's
very
also-
good example actually, because it kind of puts it right there on what the customer is willing to pay for safety.
In 2014 or 15, I actually went to the lawyer to file a case to make ABS and EBD standard in a basic car. So I kind of know it, but then it became standard itself. Because I like driving, and ABS and EBD, without that, you shouldn't drive a car.
Yeah.
But people were selling for alloy wheels and fancy things and not selling this. Anyway, that's a different story. We'll come to it. So that is the first thing, segment and segment-based pricing. So even if you have the same product, segment it. So different people will be willing to pay more. So don't leave that in the table. That is the first thing. Second thing is about, you need to price it based on your next best alternative. That is another equation. You are not the only product in the market. You cannot just go ahead and say, I sell it for 1,000 rupees when there's another one, maybe even inferior than yours, selling it for 100 rupees. So the next best alternative is another important factor as well. And I'm just trying to get into my own examples here, though there are like Harvard case studies for each one of this. I wanted to buy this 77 LG OLED in 2021 when I moved to my place here. And they charged around 12.9 lakhs for this TV. They wanted me, they quoted 12.9 lakhs, which I didn't want to buy. It was ridiculously high because a 65-inch OLED was just 4 lakhs. And they charged like 12.8 lakhs in 2020, in mid-2020. And now it's available for 5,15,000. If you go ask them for a discount, they will give it for 4.5 lakhs. What changed? 2020. And it's my own example. Like I wanted a 75-inch and I ended up buying a QLED instead of OLED because they charged me a ridiculous price. But what changed? 2020 and 2023, it's just like 2.5 years now. It went from 13 to 5. Why? Is it because the manufacturing costs went up? No, it's actually gone up. Like, China is in the lockdown, like spare parts are not available. It should be the other way around. What changed?
That's true with all electronics, right? All electronics are priced high when they're introduced in the market, and over time they just.
Yes, true. But this one, this is still there's a newer model as well. It's not that this is the latest model. This is the 2023 model. It's not the same model today. But the 77-inch. So 65-inch was just around 4 point something. 77 was like ridiculously expensive because LG was the only one at that time selling OLED 77 in India, actually LG was the only one selling overnight at all. Like Sony was just buying it from LG and selling. And now they introduced Samsung. Samsung 77 LED, I can get it for this price from the showroom itself. And this is what I ended up buying now. But what I'm saying is, when there is an alternative, then you need to change your pricing, obviously. Right? So your next best alternative is going to have an impact on your pricing. But I would still appreciate them doing it, because if someone was having that money to spend, they want to get it out of them. Why leave it in the table?
Destroy the brand.
Now given two options, right?
Pricing over not even 2-3 years.
Yeah, but you know,
Options versus
see,
screen
they
sizes.
said if you want
Something
65
features or
inch,
something extra on feature, and they could have given two options at least, as you mentioned.
no, 65 inch was just 4 lakhs. So if you are having that kind of a grid to go buy a 77, pay for it. That's what their pricing was. I could just buy a 65 inch, right? Like 65 is even big. 77 is bigger. So, you know, I think they did the right thing. And there's no competition, and when you have people who are willing to spend that money, get it out of them. Why leave it in the table? But now, yeah, that's what the elasticity is like. I was not willing to pay that kind of money. But if you look at people who want to just decorate their room with large screens, they would buy it. So it's their decision. But then there was a competition that kind of went down. So this was the screenshot I took yesterday from their website. So it's all like, you know, this one. So I think that's the other one. And you know this story, right? Airtel called me sometime and said, "Sir, we will keep the plan for 499. I was paying 1,099 till then for 6 years. And then all of a sudden they called me and said, "We'll give it to you for same plan for 499. I said, "Why?" Because there's Geo, right? Like, you know, so that's another thing. But they were doing the right thing. They were getting the money out of me because I was willing to pay. Right? I was paying 1,099 for like 8 years because I was willing to pay. If they gave it to me for 600 then they are losing value. Sorry, I'm being a bit, you know, cynical here, but that's the right thing for a company to do. To charge if the willingness to pay is there, right? So when these guys came, then you see this is the data price crash. Like it just went from 14 to this per gig. Because there's another person, the market is changing, then you change it. But before that, they were charging me not because the cost was high, because they can charge.
Rather than reducing the price, they could add something over it and maintain the charge a little bit less.
You see, when the market is like, you know, bombarded with a player like Geo, and they're getting it out for free.
Yeah.
You put the brakes on. You can't do anything
You
else.
have to break. Like there is no other option. Of course, there is in between stories where they would have tried something to keep up the pricing. But I didn't knew what was happening. I didn't knew the price has changed. All of a sudden, I was surprised when they called me to say, but there are many people who will be looking at pricing, right? I'm lazy. If I commit to something, I just stick to it. Like I don't have 2 apps in my mobile. I don't have Ola and Uber. I don't have like Amazon and Flipkart. If I stick to one thing, I stick to one thing. But not everyone is like that. They always try to compare, right? So I think they did the right thing. But when they said that to me, I was surprised. Oh, then I was a fool playing, like, you know, paying 1,100 all this time. But anyway, so pricing also depends on your next best alternative. So when you say package pricing, you need to understand the next best alternative. Now I'm going to bring my own example once again to just explain something. So when I came to India, like in 2013, I was just explaining to someone, I have all the theory, like, you know, with me. I've got the MBA, I've got the Dean's Award, whatever. All of those are useless unless you apply and get benefit out of it. I was coming here, I want to do a per day pricing, okay? This is my own example, so I'll be repeating this again. Per day pricing. And I was going around and asking people. I was asking people in different levels, okay? There were people from the learning and development team in like big service companies. I was just trying to get what should I charge per day? Okay, that is my business, right? Per day, what should I charge? So what do you think they would have suggested? I'm talking about 2013, okay? Like 10 years, 11, like early to late 2012, 2013. So at that time, I want to do a per day pricing. What should I charge? People were going like all the way from 3,000 to 5,000 to 8,000, and someone was like very generous. They said maybe 14,000 a day. They said like the best training that we get will be 14,000 a day. I said like, bro, but still it's a unique offering. I have like no one else is doing this. I'm the only one who can do it. They said no, 14,000 is the max anyone will be willing to pay. Then what I did, I priced it for 17,000 a day. This is what I said, the mistake I did. I priced it for 17,000 a day. There were a couple of proposals which I sent. It didn't really turn out, like, nothing came back. Then I was talking to someone in UK, like one of the partners in UK, and she said, Gillian, I traveled to Bangalore last week to do a training. And when she said, something struck me, because I sent a proposal to a Bangalore company just a couple of weeks back. They asked me for this training, but ended up Gillian came and did it. Gillian is from the UK, she came and did it. And that's when it struck me. What have I done? Like, I've just gone by numbers asking people when I know there should be a proper sensible way to price it. If Gillian has to come here, she has to be paid at least £1,000 a day plus travel plus accommodation to come here. And I am here, the only person in this space, okay, I can tell you, in that particular space, I'm the only person because I worked in that company for like 6-7 years getting trained in that product. It's a unique product. So there was no competition, that's why I didn't have a benchmark. I was going by benchmark pricing. Then I said, when this price is undermining my effectiveness, they think this guy will not do what they want to do. This is like training their executives on enterprise architecture, which they think I will not be able to deliver. Whatever it is, I got my pricing wrong. Then I said, £1,000 is what they are willing to pay. £1,000, GBP. And I looked at the US guys who do the same, they're charging around $1,100 a day. And this 43,000 is the exchange rate at that time for $1,000. So in 2013, $1,000 was 43,000. So I said, if not me, they are going to UK or they have to go to US to get a person to do this training. Correct? So what's the best alternative? To go to UK or the US. So I should either be charging this much or, there's no point in between. So without next to 17,000, they're willing to pay £1,000. So I am losing out value and I'm also undermining my own impression. My perception of the offering is also not that much because I'm charging low. Is that making sense? So that's when I went and said 43,000. And this one was $1,000 a day. You could imagine, right? $43 was the exchange rate at that time. So there was plain, no max. I said 43,000. Then I wanted to make this attractive. So I introduced the 59,000. I didn't want to sell a single license of 59,000. I wanted to sell this, but I want to make this attractive. So I introduced this. But the fear of a startup, like, this is my whole bread and butter. What if no one turns up? I'm going from 17,000 and I'm going to say 43,000. What if no one turns up? That is also that fear, right? So I priced 29,000. They said, okay, if someone wants a cheaper offering, let them look at it. Or if they even push it down and they come and ask me for 15,000, I'd have offered, to be honest with you. Okay. But when we priced it, this is how I did it. And I said 600 plus trainings I would have done. Only one person asked this one. Everyone else was anchored on this and they wanted this at this price. You see, so when someone asks me whether MBA was useful, I'll just go hands down and say yes, because this one, just imagine 600 trainings by 5 days of training and just multiply by the value I got from 17,000 to 43,000. I think that paid my MBA, right? So it's pricing decision is so important, and the best alternative is what you need to benchmark against. It need not be your local market. That's what I did by mistake. A Java architect will charge this much, this architect will charge that much. That's all not what I am offering. I am offering something that's unique. And I didn't do the benchmarking to start with. I got my pricing wrong and then I fixed it. I think it worked out for me.
Suppose someone like you starts after you.
Yeah, I don't want that to happen. I would have reduced it. I should have reduced it, but no one did it. Fortunately, today we have a name for ourselves. So, I mean, sorry, but I post, I would say I will not even come for this one. They need to pay me in 1,200 today. Like, it's a different thing because I've got like 10 years of experience. I've got implementation, so many implementations in hand. So I can charge what I want to do. But I'm talking about when I started, when no one knew who you are and extension. So, but still, I took that courage to do this pricing, and it worked. The enterprise people looked at this as a better offering than this. If I didn't have this, maybe I could have said, maybe I should have had a cheaper offering, I would have made more money.
But how long did it take for you from jump from 17 to 43?
One day, madam, I
One
just
day.
did it in a day. I said like,
I mean, did you do any sale at 17 and then?
no sales at 17. I sent 3 proposals, none of them turned out. I spoke to Gideon, something struck me hard. I said, let me get it right. And then the next thing, first client here was Ericsson, and that was just 1 week after I set my price.
That's a risk, right? Because most of us will not be able to, nobody's coming will reduce. Will not, it's
Yeah.
unintuitive to go to a higher price.
Higher price, but
when,
because Gillian told me that she came, that was my spark. When they are willing to pay a UK person to travel from UK, stay here and do the training, they are willing to spend. Then I should materialize it. Right?
But made in India versus made in abroad.
Yeah, but it's a skill
Perceptions.
set. Yeah, it's a skill set. I know what you're saying. Yeah, English speaking people sell, but this is a skill set. This particular software, enterprise architecture software where I started building was quite unique. So there was hardly anyone else other than me at that time, and even today, to so to speak, in this space. Yeah, I think I should just say I was lucky. Anyway, so that's the thing, and then comes the differentiation part.
What is your space?
Sorry?
Yes, enterprise resource.
No, you can't enter it now. Enterprise architecture.
Okay.
So enterprise architecture is a discipline which is very less, sorry, am I running over time? So which is very less popular in India. There are not very many people who have a tool who does enterprise architecture work. So I started as a consultant for another company's product, and then we developed a product in that space, and that's what we are working on now.
Architectural hierarchy or what is this?
So you see, that's my advantage, right? No one even knows what it is. So enterprise architecture is when you have a large company. So out of our current customers, 500 customers, we have 87 Fortune 500 companies. And those are the guys who do enterprise architecture. Like the large companies who have a widespread, IT organization. There'll be duplicates, there'll be a lot of wasted efforts, they don't know what is where. So it's almost like a building architecture, right? Like, civil architecture, but at an IT level. So you will capture where things are, how they are connected, what is the contingency and things like that. So that's the space, which is very few people in that space.
Almost negligible. I
Sorry?
can tell you by our experience, we work on IoT plus SaaS as a platform plus product. Enterprise architecture is like someone's gold. We are trying to find it.
Yeah, it's quite
quite
rare. It's
quite
So
quite
you
rare.
said you have done MBA, just wanted to know something. Your price 29,000 something, 40,000, 43,000 and 59,000, right? Is there a thumb rule? Because 2, 4 and 5, 50% higher.
No, as I said, 43,000 was the only pricing. And that was because $1,000 was my base.
Right.
But then 29,000, 50% less, and then 59,000, 50% more.
59,000.
Is there a thumb rule?
No, it's no thumb rule. I just, I didn't want to go like 60. The 59,000 was intentionally kept to make 43,000 attractive. Okay, I didn't expect to sell 59,000 when I priced it. But when you look at 59 and then look at 43, 43 will sound cheaper, right? That's what I want to do. And then 29 was to save, prevent myself from going out of business. I was like afraid. Like, I'm being honest. I was concerned that, people should just not shy away from even coming. So I kept it as a buffer. But thankfully, except one company, no one even asked about it. Okay. So then the third part of this value-based pricing is differentiation. And this is, as I said, if it's a commodity, this is not the game for you. And I'm sure no one of you is going to be in a commodity business. This is not for us. It's about differentiation. And I go back to the mobile phone example. The phones here vary from 10,000 to 1.5 lakhs or something like that. Why? Is it because your call quality is different? Is it because your WhatsApp will show something different? Of course, in US, yes. I don't know if you have heard this. In the US, if you use Snapchat, using Apple, I don't know, I'm not into any of the social media, but I heard my friend saying, the Snapchat reply using Apple phone will give a different tick color, and a normal, like an Android phone will give a different tick color. You need an Apple tick color to even get a response. Okay, so that is a unique thing. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but other than that, these phones are phones, right? Just phones. But why are they charged differently? Because they are differentiated in their own rights. So, I cannot benchmark my price against iPhone, I cannot benchmark my price against Samsung. They have got so many other things that have gone into their mix while doing the pricing. That's why any newcomer, they're usually pricing around the other players, right? So OnePlus and Xiaomi, I don't know, I haven't used any of those. OnePlus, Xiaomi and all those guys have some kind of similar pricing model. And then the more premium brands have the more premium pricing. And that is because they have differentiated it inherently. Right? It's the hardest market to differentiate in my opinion. What are you differentiating with? Except brand and the so-called usability, what are you differentiating with? It's very hard to differentiate, but most of us, the startups in this, they have some references. So if I am introducing another product in this mix, okay, these are all like CRM or support desk software. If I introduce another software, can I go and price it like 10 times or 2 times as this software? You cannot. You are limited to play within a range. Correct? But still, you need to get people to buy your software purely by differentiation and having something that materializes that differentiated offering. Correct? So there is a new thing that Zoho has come up with an AI-based chat. And that is what they are selling in their premium edition. And that's kind of really helpful. We have a 24-hour support channel, like in our team. And I'm kind of feeling that's a blessing for me. I've just upgraded from the previous version to the premium edition because they introduced this one feature. So what it's doing, I have to train my people to respond in sensible English. See, I'm sorry, I'm being a bit cynical here, but here, it's not about training people to do work. You have to do work and also respond in sensible English, because I'm talking to all the Europeans and US. If they have a bad English, it reflects directly on my, on our impact as well. So we have Quillbots and Grammarly's and everything in the world. Zoho has done a fantastic job by just incorporating all that in their support. The query comes, it automatically looks at our knowledge base, drafts a response and gives it to our users, to our team. And they just have to review it once and send it. That's just amazing. So that one feature is that differentiation that those guys have bought it and they are actually doing it well. Of course, others will catch up. But the thing is, even if you are in a common mix of products, some differentiation that you could bring that is going to be a value add will definitely help you price it differently. Is that making sense? I don't know if any one of you are in a business like this, but a lot of startups try to operate in the same space. And the only way you could make something is free model. Of course, free model is what everyone is choosing these days. Premium, you all know what is premium, right? Yeah, give it for free.
Like the subscription model.
Yeah, they give it for free and then
then you start charging.
Exactly. So that's a premium model that we could do. But that again, you need to have deep pockets to have premium. But there's another model. So there's a cousin of mine. He developed an app called Where Is My Train? I don't know if anyone of you have used it. Where Is My Train? It was developed by another guy. His name is also Nizam. Is my cousin. And he sold it to Google for a good money, like a good number. But they charged $0 till they got sold. And their idea was very clear from day one that they are not going to charge. They're going to just get the customer list, footfall, and sell it. When they were acquired, Google Maps had 25 million users a day. Where's My Train had 1.5 million users a day. So that's the kind of scale that they built, but charging $0. But their idea was very clear. This is what I'm going to do. And they took them 2 years from $0 to that and they sold it. That was a very good money by the way. So, but that is a different model. If you have the vision to do it, if you have the conviction to do it, that's a different model. But for most others, you need to price it, and the pricing should be, you either be in a market where it's low cost, low margin. Like if you are in a support desk, it's a low cost, low margin. But look at these guys. So if you go to a niche product, or something that I did, this is not a very huge market, by the way. This is a very small market. There's another risk in a very small market. You only find a handful of customers. But if you are in a SAP or an ERP kind of a system where everyone is using it, if you are having a value-added offering at that space, you should not charge what these guys are charging. Is that making sense? Your cost to develop is going to be the same, but you should charge by the perceived value of the customers. How much is a Zoho consultant charging versus how much is a SAP consultant charging? Do you know? in India even, it'll be at least like, 5 to 6 times. It's the same person, but they'll charge 5 to 6 times because they are operating in a space which is more attractive. That the customers are willing to pay more. That's it. Is that making sense?
Okay, staff is expensive, right?
Sorry?
Staff is expensive.
Yes, SAP is expensive, and like, I am the same person. If I go as a Zoho consultant, I charge maybe 10,000 a day. But if I go as a SAP consultant, I could charge $1,000 a day. It's the same person, but because I'm operating in a place where there's more value, people are willing to pay more, I have to charge more. If I go and charge 10,000 to an SAP team, they are going to be smiling, but we are losing value. Correct?
One more thing, like, there is something called resistance to shift, right? If you take SAP or like you take Zoho, someone start using it, you have huge data stuck over there, and transferring is going to take a lot of effort, right?
Costs.
Huge cost. So people will tend to stuck to that, and they can't resistance to change, right?
Yeah, resistance to change and barriers to change. The resistance is the people's one. You are talking about barriers to entry, barriers to exit. So when they are stuck in a system, they are stuck in a system. That's what you're saying. But I am just talking about if we are coming up with an offering, and that offering is targeting this space, you have to price it differently. If it is this space, you need to price it differently because you understand that the market is not the same. Your development cost is the same, but the market is different, so you need to have a different pricing for it.
Affiliates will stay with affiliates.
Yeah,
We have separate market there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's what it is. So, well, that's a brand, but it's been built over a long period of time. So,
It's of the experience, what you always want to continue with. Right?
it's a brand image and everything. But it's like, if we are charging, if we are doing a service in that space, and if you are charging less, you are losing it. I should not say I'm paying 30,000 rupees for a person, so I'm going to charge 50,000 rupees to the customer. That's not the game, right? You pay whatever to your person. You charge them what they are willing to pay, and the gap is what you make. Right? So that's again, it's all coming back to it. This is another example of mine. I always like this because, like, again, this is the differentiated product. This, how much can we differentiate? It's a flat script. Like this is business class in Malaysia, this is business class in Qatar. But with just one door, they make this look like a first class. There's it's called Q suite. There's a door in between. And I wouldn't mind paying always to this because I get a first class experience. But if I fly this, I find, okay, maybe I should just try to travel in a, maybe a premium economy is good for me. Because I feel like it's just a flat bed for 7 hours, that's fine. But what I'm saying is small differentiations could change the customer's perception. This is just one door here. Do you see that this guys could also have a door, but they are not. But these guys have come up with one door, called it Q Suite. And I think, see, the thing is, I fly both directions. I fly to the US, I fly to Australia as well. In Australia, if I say, I don't usually book a business directly. I book a normal economy, and then there's a bid, and I bid for it, and I always get it, because there's no one to bid for it. Business classes are free, mostly in this side. I go from here to Australia. But if I go to the UK or to the US, in these guys' carriers, business class is always full. You'll hardly get, even if you book for it, you'll not get it. So what I'm saying is, maybe there are more factors to it. There are people who are willing to spend and all those things, but it's also the experience that they give makes it more attractive. Anyway, I think I'm getting a little over time, but I'll just finish with this. So this is the biggest question, and I don't have an answer that I can give in 5 minutes. How do I value the willingness to pay for a differentiated offering? Okay, now I agree, I have a segment. And I can see that they are creating value, I am adding value to that segment. But how do I ascertain the value? How do I price for that value? That's the question, right? This is the bigger problem. This is the bigger problem. Unless you have a benchmark or a reference, this is going to be a hard nut to crack. So there are 2 attributes. Again, this is from HBR reference, Harvard Business Review reference. There are things like age and genders and income and education, which is easy for you to do. And in your case, you know the school and the school's people, the fees that they charge, those are the obvious factors, right? So if I'm going to talk to, the public schools or the so-called public schools here versus a CBSE school, I know that they are charging more, so I can price it a little more. Those are the explicit options. But there are the intrinsic options. like their passion and their risk tolerance, like these are some examples. We don't know that, we can't quantify it. But there are ways to identify it, and that's what I just want to show, which is, like, there are surveys and focus groups. These are classical, like, methods, they're documented methods. You might have to do some learning or reading to do this, but surveys and focus groups are one example where we go ask people, we tell them, I give you this and I give you this, like an A/B testing they say, and say how much are they willing to pay for it. So it's not in a quantified amount. Will you be, paying 10% of your monthly income on it? Like something like a generic questions which will help us derive something. But this surveys, there's lots and lots of materials on this, but this is a very common way to ascertain pricing. If you are offering a service to a business, you need to talk to them. You need to understand how much are they willing to pay for it. And it's very hard to do it in India, by the way. Like India is like difficult. Why? Because they say in surveys as well, in marketing classes, they say, do not trust an Indian survey. Why? If I come and ask you, do you like this bottle? If it is UK or the US, they say, yes or no, it's bad. Their response will be, yes, I like it, or no, it looks like crap. Indians, yeah, that looks good, okay. In their mind, they'll think, what the hell is this? Like, you know what I'm saying? So they will not get that actual response. So the survey is not the same when you do it in a country where their responses are candid, versus our country. So if you ask someone a favor, they'll say, it's okay, we will see this, that, blah, 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 but they don't say no. We have a problem saying no. But if you go talk to a US guy or someone and say, can you do it? You'll say yes or no. So the surveys is a hard part in India, but that's a very good tool to ascertain your customers' perceived value. And there's something called conjoint analysis. I mean, again, theory, but if you are, as I said, pricing is a science. It's not just a number game. It's a science. So there are past patterns. If a guy is going to lifestyle and he is paying like a couple of thousands for a shirt, he will be willing to pay a similar amount of money for a trouser as well. Like there's conjoint analysis. So you analyze this pattern in one thing and try to apply it on another thing. That's why this data collection is like a key everywhere. Again, I'll just list these and leave it in the interest of time, but these are some really important studies, and this is a published study by Amazon. So what they did was they asked so many people, like a good number of people, the sample size was huge. They said, depending on their salary, their willingness to pay was different. Then this is a published study. So the same service, like Amazon Prime is one service, but depending on their salary, they have $88 to $180 for the same subscription. And this kind of study is where we will have segments. How many of you have Netflix? I mean, everyone will have Netflix subscription, for example, but they have a very interesting pricing model. If you want full HD, 4K, blah, 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 then your price is double a normal subscription. And who will do it? People who are who want to do it, right? So they have the pricing model because they know the segment's preferences. So again, it all goes back to segments, but how do we ascertain? It's based on these surveys and conjoint analysis. That's the way to do it. And how do you improve your pricing?
Like, how did they get the salaries?
Sorry?
How did they get the salaries?
Survey.
Also, they just
They did a survey on their salary and their willingness to pay. So this was done in a huge sample size, and this was a published study. Again, there is a case study for this as well. Each one of this I've taken from some case studies. Okay, I haven't got references in my slides, but you just Google this, you'll get these case studies. Okay. But the only thing I want to just say to finish is there are services. Everything is looked at like a commodity. There are 10 CRM systems, 10 supported systems. Everyone will be looked at as same, unless there are some unique, like I said, Zoho playing with AI and having a first mover advantage in that particular space. So those are the things which will differentiate our product. I guess that's what our focus has to be as well. Whatever offering we are, I think we should be working on things that enhances. So why is Samsung more popular than a comparative brand? But let's put it this way. How many of you own a Toyota? Like a Toyota has its own uniqueness because their service quality is far superior than anyone else. Have you heard that? Like, Toyota's service is so ahead of anyone. So their cars are, why would Toyota buy a Baleno and sell it as some other name? Do you know? There's a Baleno, right? Like Suzuki Baleno is being resold in Toyota's banner as some car. I don't know why. They're not manufacturing it. They're going to lose money, right? Suzuki is going to charge them some money. They're not manufacturing it. If they manufacture it, it will be less. But why? Because they have this brand reputation that their service is superior. Just because of that, they're buying a car and selling it. I mean, I found it amusing. How can you do it? Just buy a car, rebrand it, and sell it. They did the same for Brezza as well. It's urban cruiser or whatever. Same car in a different banner, just because they know their brand is superior. So that's what we have to also try, like, to like small qualities make a big difference. So these are some of the, again, you know what your offering is, but how do we just nail something that would be a value to the customer so that you can charge a premium for it? That's all about it. And that's pretty much what I want to say. And finally, this note, theories are just theories. As I said, I thought I studied well, I thought I got the deals about, but the first decision I did was a blunder. So theories are theories. We have to experiment with it, but it's an exercise. Pricing is the make or break. I mean, I would say that. Like, pricing is the make or break. And imagine I would have been running my show at 17,000 a day. I don't think a lot of the other events would have happened in the same way how it happened now. So pricing will make, I would have even quit it and went back for a job. Like, I was offered job at really, really prestigious institutions, I would have probably gone back. So pricing is the make or break for a business, and it is an exceptional. That's all I want. I hope it was useful. Thank you. Thank you.
I think this has been one of the top lectures or sessions that we had. Startup essentials, end of journey practice. I think it's a tip of the iceberg. I would make of it. And this calls for a workshop, I would imagine. How many of you would opt for a workshop?
Thank you. That's very positive.
Because what we do also these sessions, we find that many of them have their own problems or their own business related queries, which we try to keep it on a different day. And before this, we also did revenue streams, right? So these are related. What kind of revenue you want to get and what kind of price you fix. So we are looking at, Jaya and I spoke about it to see if we could organize a workshop where they come with their specific basis, and but it's also good for peer learning, right? So many of you may have similar issues, but it will be your issue, and you can interact, you can customize it to some extent. And usually, you have some time. It will be about 2 hours or something. It's a little more than this, I think. It's a workshop.
2 hour conversations, because that would help setting perspective where we are in the marketplace, that we say what are our core, what are our segments, and then finally coming down to what possibly pricing strategies could work.
Because you have got a lot of inputs.
Yeah.
Go back and apply it, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to work around it for some time, come back with certain challenges. What we did last time, I think some of you were there, when the marketing was, each of you will come and share your specific issue. We give you some time for that, and then we see how the rest of the team responds to it. And by the time we come to the end of this round, probably everybody will have a chance. We'll structure that. No, I think it is very important. I've been mentoring many of these startups, and I realized that pricing is something that, it's a discovery each time. And you're very right in saying that whatever you learn, and even if this is a classroom to some extent, right? There may be a lot of practical insights. At the end of the day, you're getting some inputs. When you go to the field, it'll be a different experience. You have to experiment and learn, and that's something if you can pick up. How to take risks, how to be resilient in terms of pricing, and have a logic for your product, so that the credibility is not lost when you change the prices at all. Many important things came in terms of knowing your customer, knowing your segment, knowing your product, knowing your competition, and knowing, I think, substitutes. right? I remember when smartphones were launched 1990, late 1990s, there were fake smartphones which were sold. Which used to just, make some noise and people were buying that, and I was working in ITC those days, and cigarette sales went up. Because it was a fashion statement. So instead of smoking, I might as well have a fancy cell phone. Not cell phone, look-alike. So there are needs because of which people buy certain products. When there are competing needs, means competing products with the same need, you don't know where to link it. But I think that each of you is best in your own areas and industries. So we will end it here. Thank you so much once again, Yuval. Fantastic session. I think it's been archived to the YouTube channel to those who missed it.
Yeah. So I would like to thank our speaker Nizam Ahmed sir for giving us a wonderful insight on pricing, and I would also like to thank each one of you for joining us for this session, and I hope you have taken a lot from this session or talk that has happened today. I would also like to thank Anubhav sir, who had in his busy schedule, who came, made a point to come here and be with us. So I would request Anubhav sir to give us
This is a response open from the community here. One of the startups. It's the same thing, right?
Yes,
Kind of,
same thing.
It's a kind of a shoe which is like for power warmers.